The World Report. Let's take a look at the top stories of the hour. US President Donald Trump says it looks like America has lost India and Russia to the quote-unquote deepest, darkest China in a post on his Truth Social platform. Along with the post, the US President shared an image of the leaders of the three countries together. Trump further added in a sarcastic tone that he wishes for a prosperous future for the three nations. Russian President Vladimir Putin warns that any Western troops deployed to Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets by Moscow. Putin's warning comes after French President Emmanuel Macron said 26 countries pledged to provide post-war security guarantees to Ukraine. Thailand's parliament has chosen business tycoon Anutin Charnvirakul as the country's prime minister, the third in 2 years, after yet another leader was removed from office for ethical violations over her handling of the border dispute with Cambodia. The Portuguese police have now confirmed that 11 of the 16 people that died in the Lisbon funicular cable crash were foreign nationals. Amongst those who died in the crash include 5 Portuguese, 2 South Koreans, 3 British, 1 Swiss, 1 American, 2 Canadian, and 1 Ukrainian and 1 French national. China has strongly opposed any move to impose economic pressure after President Trump urged Europe to target Beijing over the war in Ukraine. Foreign Ministry spokesperson of China warned against dragging China into the matter. UK Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner has resigned as the Deputy Prime Minister, Housing Minister and Deputy Leader of the Labour Party. She expressed regret for not seeking additional specialist tax advice which contributed to her decision. Prime Minister Keir Starmer said she made the right decision and will remain a major figure in the party. Israeli forces have killed at least 69 Palestinians and wounded 422 in Gaza over the past 24 hours, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Hamas released a video, on the other hand, showing 2 hostages being driven through Gaza City. Video shows damaged buildings and the hostages, Guy Gilboa, Dalal and Alan O'Hell, are reuniting inside the vehicle. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the United States will blow up foreign crime groups if necessary as he announces Ecuador's Los Lobos and Los Coneros will be labeled terrorist organizations. His warning comes days after a U.S. strike kills 11 people on a Venezuelan vessel in the Caribbean, while 2 Venezuelan aircraft later flew close to the U.S. Navy ship. Story of the hour. The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that thousands of foreign troops could be deployed to Ukraine as part of the post-war security guarantees. This announcement has come after talks with the European Council President Antonio Costa in Western Ukraine. Listen in to what he said.
І також ми розуміємо, які країни що готові запровадити. А також це питання, про які ви сказали, що є інформація, що розгортання 10 тисяч. Я знов-таки не буду говорити про кількість, але важливо, що ми все це обговорюємо. Так, це буде точно не в одиницях, а в тисячах. І це факт, але про це ще трішки зарано говорити. Нарешті ми чуємо сигнали з Росії, що вони вже сприймають членство України в Євросоюзі. Шкода, що вони сприймають реальність з такою затримкою. Ще з 2013 року Росія йшла до цієї простої думки. Але зараз це треба почути і деяким іншим великим друзям Росії в Європі. Якщо вже навіть Путін не заперечує, то позиції деяких країн, особливо Угорщини щодо кластерів в перемовинах, виглядають дійсно дивно.
The security guarantees for Ukraine are being planned by 26 countries, including an international force on land, sea and air to reinforce Ukraine's defenses and provide stability after the war. Meanwhile, Russia has warned that any Western troops in Ukraine would be considered legitimate targets, but also stated it will not object to Ukraine's membership in the European Union. Matti Zweig, who's a geopolitical expert, joins me on the telecast. Matti, let's understand from you about the dichotomy between how Russia perceives the conflict and a possible resolution to the war that has lasted over 3 years versus the European allies of Ukraine who continue to push for security guarantees and troop deployment, which Russia is not on board with. How do you think there is going to be a resolution when there are two stark contrasts in the way two countries, in fact the two sides, perceive how a resolution is going to be brought through?
Yes, hello, and thank you for having me. I think we are looking at an ongoing situation that is continuing, to show that both sides are entrenched in their points of view. I mean, from the point of view from the beginning of the war, Putin has tried to conquer the maximum territory that he can from Ukraine, treating Ukraine as a non-sovereign country that is against his Russian values of being in his area of influence, and also other terms that he, in the meanwhile, he left, like denazification of the country, is something that they are not talking now about, but they talk a lot in the past. In this precise moment, he continued, like in the last 9 or 10 months, to gain more and more territory and to gain the maximum territory he can until he's going to agree through the different Trump initiatives or world initiatives to sit in a kind of ceasefire or peace agreement that we don't see in the horizon now, to finish this situation, of course, giving his terms of non-European and non-NATO Ukraine, and of course not foreign soldiers from other countries that come to help Ukraine. And from this point of view also, you have volunteers from different countries in both sides of this war. I mean, also the Ukrainian side, you have European volunteers that they say that they are not soldiers from NATO, they come voluntarily. The same with from North America, from South America, some Africans, and the same from the Russian side. They have African volunteers or mercenaries, as you wish, and also the North Koreans that they were sent to the areas that they were conquered by the Ukrainians in the area of Kursk, that is inside Russia. And so all these talkings is just more of the same, and all kind of excuses, especially from the Russian side, but also from the Ukrainian side, not to finish this war in any terms that they are going to completely lose. And this is what's happening now.
What do you think about the proposal by the Putin administration to hold these peace negotiation talks in Moscow? This has been completely rejected by Ukraine. If Moscow is not the venue where the peace talks can happen, which place is an alternative that is going to be acceptable for both sides?
Well, it depends how do you look at it. I mean, for Zelensky, it's like coming to the cage of the bear and to be trapped there and maybe imprisoned, and because he knows that the West is not going to start a Civil War with nuclear weapons only to save him from prison. And he thinks if he's going to Moscow, what is going to happen to him. I mean, and only if really in this way the honor of Putin is going to be in the game, that he say, yeah, I'm going to protect him and put him back to Ukraine. I mean, in any way, is nothing that is not compatible with international norms of convivence or people that want to get a peace agreement. So in any way, they are just talks, and this is not serious at this stage, at least.
Stay on with me, Matty. We have more information coming in. In fact, the European Union has said it will welcome US President Donald Trump's support for its plan to end imports of Russian oil and gas by 2028. The EU Energy Commissioner Dan Jorgensen has said that Washington backing Europe's energy strategy would be significant even as diplomatic efforts to end the war in Ukraine continue. US President Donald Trump urged European leaders in a call to halt Russian oil purchases, which he said help fund Moscow's war effort. Europe has already reduced its reliance on Russian gas from 45% to about 13% since the start of the conflict, but countries like Hungary and Slovakia remain opposed to the phase-out, warning of higher energy prices. Listen in to the European Union Energy Commissioner's comment.
I will be meeting with Secretary Wright next week in Brussels. This will be the first time that him and I meet after the deal was made. And I look forward to an exchange of opinions there. I have a very good relationship to Secretary Wright, and I'm sure that we will be able to plan what to do next to make sure that this deal is then actually also implemented. It's clear that our role is to facilitate.
Matty Zweig stays with me on the telecast. Matty, with regards to the European Union seeking support of the Trump administration to put sanctions, put pressure on countries, particularly China, when it comes to supporting the war, supporting Russia in the war against Ukraine by buying oil. How do you view these geopolitical developments that are taking place? Of course, China has put its foot down, said that it cannot be dragged into the Ukraine-Russia war. It would not be right for European Union or for United States to drag it in the Ukraine-Russia conflict, which is not of the making of China. How do you see things are going to pan out with regards to secondary sanctions or tariffs or penalties being imposed on countries that are in trade deals with Russia?
Well, the history of putting sanctions to third parties is not new. And also the history of the European point of view, putting more pressure on Russia and putting more pressure on third parties. I mean, it's strange because from one side, you said already that some European countries continue to buy oil and gas from Russia, like Hungary and Slovakia. And from the other side, the European Union is very, very tight to all kinds of Chinese initiatives. And this is a way of saying, like, please, Trump, help me to get out of this. But this is not going to happen because Trump has been very clear that he's not siding with Russia, but giving a lot of opportunities to Russia to get down from the ladder and to make some kind of peace agreement so he can be and feel free of pressuring his real enemy, and he doesn't hide that is China. China, right, as usual, it's always gaining from both sides. Like with they were mediating even in the Iran-Israel war. Why? Because they were afraid that they are going to cut the petroleum fluid to them. And now it's the same with this. They have a lot of also plans for infrastructure, for reconstruction for Ukraine, and they have a lot of ties with Russia, so they are in the middle of everything. To put other people against China is the only way to do it is through Trump. So right, only everything we get to the same point if Trump is going to decide that it's going to be like this, so maybe things are going to change.
All right, stay on with me. Matt, there more information coming in. In fact, let's shift our focus to the Lisbon tragedy, where the Portuguese authorities are being urged to review the technology used in Lisbon's funicular crash after a deadly crash killed at least 16 people. The accident happened when the traction cable snapped, making the braking redundancy system fail as one car left the track and hit a building near its twin. The president of the Order of Engineers of Portugal has made a statement. Listen in.
Or the cable was used for more than 100 years, so it's broken, and there are too many things like that, too many components like that in the world, not even in Portugal, that not broken, that it's not, it was a rupture, it's not supposed to have that. And the redundant systems, the safety systems behind that one doesn't work because it was just for to stop that as a brake. But of course, authorities must do something more in this insurance for this kind of funiculars, because the technology, the engineering and the knowledge is much more than this last century, and because that we can improve better than it all things.
Tourists and local residents in Lisbon have been left shocked, with many visiting the site to pay tribute and capture photos of the out-of-service funicular. This is what some of the tourists have to say.
Accidents do happen. I mean, nobody plans it. And it could be anywhere. It could be New York, for that matter. That is, I'm not going to stop going to New York.
Segura, en Lisboa, claro, hemos venido después del accidente nosotros. Nosotros no íbamos a subir tampoco en el funicular, pero estamos muy seguros. Llegamos ayer, muy bien. Yo creo que no. Eso pasa algunas veces. Supongo que tomarán medidas para que eso no vuelva a pasar y ya está. Si no, no se viajaría, ¿no? Claro.
I don't think it would be affected, no. But I mean, I think that a lot less people are going to take the vehicle that crashed, but I don't think that tourism will be affected.
Shifting our focus to Southeast Asia, Thailand has a new Prime Minister, with the Parliament electing Anutin Charnvirakul on Friday. His election follows the removal of former Prime Minister Patong Tarn Shinawatra by the court last week, which had thrown the country into chaos and political deadlock. Anutin secured a victory through a deal with the Progressive Opposition People's Party, the largest force in parliament. He promised to hold a referendum on amending the constitution and to call an election within 4 months. Many Thais see his rise as a moment for change, with residents saying they hope he can deliver stability after a turbulent political period.
เห็นสมควรอย่างมากเลยเห็นสมควรว่าควรจะเปลี่ยนแปลงสักทีแค่4 เดือนคิดว่าคงทำอะไรได้ในการบริหารในหลักการของบ้านเมือง
เนี่ยมันมีอะไรที่เปลี่ยนแปลงมั่งก็ดีไม่งั้นก็คนเก่าเปลี่ยนกันเป็นครอบครัวเดียวอย่างกับการเมืองนี่เป็นของครอบครัวทั้งประเทศนะครับมันต้องมีการเปลี่ยนแปลงมีอะไรที่ดีๆขึ้นนะครับโดยเฉพาะควรจะมีอะไรใหม่ๆขึ้นมาบ้างไม่ใช่อะไรก็คนเดิมไม่เป็นก็ลูกหลานญาติพี่น้องนะครับก็สมควรจะมีใหม่บ้าง
ก็มองดูก็ลองให้เขาเป็นไปก่อนก็ดูเขาไปก่อนลูกยังไงก็ว่ากันเนาะเพราะยังยายไม่ค่อยรู้หรอกใครเป็นยายก็ว่าดีหมดแหละแต่ก็แล้วแต่แหละ
Hamas has released a video showing 2 Israeli hostages, Guy Gilbo Dalal and Alan Ohel, who were captured during an October 2023 music festival. In the video, Gilboa Dalal reveals he is being held in Gaza City, where Israeli military offensive continues to intensify. The video also shows the hostages' fear of being killed as Israel pushes forward in Gaza, a region it now controls 40% of. Over 64,000 Palestinians have died in the conflict, while Israel demands Hamas release all hostages. Meanwhile, Israeli officials say military operations will continue until Hamas disarms. Matty stays on with me on the telecast. Matty, more of these videos have now been released by Hamas. Two of those hostages who at this point of time are seen indicating that they are still held hostage. They are in Gaza right now. Again, a very sensitive, complicated hostage deal that is yet to see the light of the day. There are negotiations that continue not just between Hamas and Israel, but also between the United States of America and Hamas, between the United States of America and Qatar and other Arab nations who have also gotten into this conversation. Do you think there is going to be in the near future a hostage deal that can be secured by Israel, and how so?
Well, we have been saying for a long time that there are two parts for a tango. You cannot just pressure Israel and ask from Israel to give up to the attack, to gain control of Gaza, and to try to take the hostages by force, because from the other side, Hamas, in months and months, going back and forth to Egypt, to Qatar, to the United States, whatever, is saying all the time, no, no, no. They don't want to free the hostages. They don't want to dismantle themselves, even that this is a request of the US, the European countries, and the Arab countries themselves. It cannot be only one-sided request from Israel to stop when the other side don't have the will to do any step to finish this bloodshed, because it's good for them. It's good for Hamas. Hamas is a genocidal, jihadist, terrorist group. It's in the core of their ideology to make a big war, to make suffer a lot, in order to make the world be astonished and pressure Israel. You have to ask yourself why they don't free the hostages. If Israel several times said that we can do an arrangement, they can go out from Gaza, they can dismantle themselves, they are not going to touch them, and they are going to give the power to a combination of different countries, like maybe Emirates, Saudi Arabia, the US and others, maybe Oman, that take care also with moderate Palestinians from the West Bank. The power in Gaza and Israel will redeploy in the perimeter.
But is it acceptable
Gaza
to the Israeli government that Hamas return the hostages in exchange for a peace deal, in exchange of the Israeli military forces halting, pounding the Gaza Strip?
You are right. Why is that happening? Because of the behavior of Hamas is giving the best tools to the extremists inside the Israeli government to say, you see, they don't want anything. Let's do our way. Let's finish them. Let's continue attacking. Let's continue killing them. And in the meanwhile, everybody is losing. And this is serving only two sides. One is Hamas, and the other ones are the extremists inside the Israeli government, that they are about 15 or 10 or 18% of all the Israeli government. And this is what has to happen. Hamas has to change their attitude and then put Israel in a corner and to say, we are offering peace, take it. But they are not doing that.
Okay.
Both sides are not doing that because of this behavior.
Maddie, stay on with me. I'm going to shift my focus to the other developments coming in from Gaza. In fact, in Gaza, families are grieving after an Israeli airstrike hit tents sheltering displaced people near the Islamic University. Amongst the victims, children are also dead. Reda Afifi, who lost several grandchildren, shared her heartache, saying that she was tired of this life and losing her children every day was unbearable. The strike has further intensified the suffering of the Palestinians, already enduring months of conflict and displacement.
بعتونا على الخارطة إنها غزة آمنة بعيدة عن الخطر بعيدة عن كل شيء. طب قعدنا في المنطقة الآمنة اللي حكى عنها الجانب الإسرائيلي، تم الذبح فيها، تم القتل فيها. إيش سوى الطفل هذا؟ إيش عمل الطفل هذا؟ عيني كاملة كلها تنباد من غير أي شيء يذكر. ايش عملنا احنا للجيش الاسرائيلي؟ ايش سوينا؟
12 ونص احنا نايمين في خيامنا، ما شفنا صواريخ بنزل على الناس. 3 عائلات نايمين الناس، طلعنا على صوت نجلة لقينا الخيمة محروقة حرق، الناس مفحمة فيها. هل الناس مفحمة فيها نتنياهو بتقول انت ما ضروش الاطفال، ما ضروش النساء، ما ضروش الرجال، هذول كيف انضربوا؟ انفحان تكلم في حالنا، ما ضلش امهات في غزة، ما ضلش امهات غزة كلهن حرقوا قلوبهن، يوم ندفن كل واحد، هذا بتحصل كلنا بنحصل على اولادنا. امشي امن بالله ما اخره معنا يطلع النهار، بطل محبه علينا يطلع النهار، بيطلعش النهار، بدناش يطلع النهار عشان ما تحصلش على اولاد.
يا رب دخيلك يا الله، والله زقنا عنا، احنا زقنا منها على الحياه كلها، لسه لو متنا كليتنا لسه اريح، يرضى علينا نو نتريح من الحياه، اما كل يوم نفقد بنات جين، كل يوم نفقد اولادنا هيك، هذا حرام، هذا حرام بيصير فينا الشعب الفلسطيني. ايش عاملين احنا؟ طيب ليش طيب؟ ما دامها منطقة خضراء زي ما بيقولوا آمنة، ليش بيضربوا فيها؟ ليش يضربوا فيها؟ ليش يضربوا فيها المنطقة الخضراء؟ إيش نساوي إحنا؟ وين نروح يعني؟ وين نروح؟ لا معنا مصاري نطلع، ولا معنا إشي نطلع، ولا معنا حق كيلو طحين مش قادرين نجيبه يا الله، وين نروح إحنا؟
Matty, you've heard the plight of these displaced Palestinians who have lost their children, grandchildren. This was the appeal that was being made by this woman who has lost her family members, and she said she cannot take it any longer. And there have been, at this point of time, pressure that has been built by the United Nations, by a number of countries across Europe, in Canada, in Australia, who have condemned the incessant military attacks by the Israeli Defense Forces, killing hundreds and thousands of these innocent Palestinians, these innocent Gazans. How do you see Israeli government justifying these attacks?
First, you are using a lot of words that maybe are not accurate. When you say thousands of innocents, maybe it's 100 innocents and 3,000 non-innocents. You are all the time, not you, of course, personally, in all the world, repeating and repeating a narrative that is coming from Hamas. Hamas, again, is a genocidal jihadist group that they don't care about human lives. Why do you don't look about the films of the children? They are completely in pieces, killed by Russians in Ukraine, because they don't like to show them. Also, Israel don't show every day soldiers without an arm or a leg, or a lot of things. Every child is a tragedy. But to use children as human shields, as Hamas does, is also a tragedy. So the narrative must be equal for both sides, and not only for one side. Israel is attacking and attacking because they don't agree to free the hostages. Put this in your mind. When they will agree, the war will finish in 5 minutes. You will see.
Okay, all right, Matty, thank you very much for sharing your perspective. Even as there are, at this point of time, the Gaza Health Ministry releasing more of these figures about the number of people that have died in the last 24 hours in Gaza, that the number continues to increase. Moving on, in the southern Gaza Strip, displaced families face extreme hardship. A woman from Rafah describes the daily struggle, saying they are forced to leave their children alone for hours, exposed to the sun, just to reach aid points. She stated the waiting has become her job. Listen in to what she had to say.
حدث ولا حرج، ما في ولا شيء حرفيا. قطاع غزة بيعيش في مجاعة وفقر شديد مدقع تحت الصفر، مش لاقيين شيء ناكله. بنيجي هنا على تكيات الطعام، بنسيب صغارنا أولادنا بالساعات تحت هالشمس، بنسيب كبارنا، الكبار بالعمر ممكن يكون مثلا الحماة والحماية، ممكن يكون الوالد والوالدة، بنغيب بالساعات زي كأنه دوام رسمي، صار روتين من هالحياة.
The Israeli military has struck a high-rise in Gaza City, targeting buildings it says are being used by Hamas. This follows an announcement to target a range of infrastructure, including observation points, sniper positions and tunnels. Israel has been intensifying its bombardment around Gaza City as it seeks to capture the area's largest urban center. Civilian fears are growing, with many residents like Ahmed Abu Wutfa describing the terror of living in constant danger. Visuals on your screens of the strike. Listen in to some reactions. Crashing down after a military strike has bombed this city. Shifting our focus to other news that is coming in from United Kingdom. The UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer issued a letter of response following Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner's resignation from the government after just 14 months in office, marking a sudden and significant shift for Labour Party. Her resignation leaves key roles vacant, including the crucial position of the Housing Secretary, responsible for the government's flagship house building policies. In response, Keir Starmer has launched a wider cabinet reshuffle aimed at restoring momentum and stability. The Chancellor is expected to remain in post to reassure the markets. Advisor Sir Laurie Magnus said that the Prime Minister had little choice but to accept Rayner's resignation. As Keir Starmer navigates this challenge, he seeks to turn a setback into renewed strength. I have with me Sham Batra. He's the former London mayoral candidate. He's joining me from London. Thank you, Sham. And of course, your first reaction about this massive setback, the Deputy Prime Minister resigning for underpaying the property tax. She also manages the position up until now, before she resigned, of the Housing Secretary. What's going on within the cabinet?
I think this is almost like a joke show. There's always something going on in our country. She obviously knew what she was doing, and so young in the infancy of her vice prime minister, or whatever you want to call her, she's gone and done this silly system. She knows the rules. Stamp duty has to be paid. Every time you buy a property in this country, you pay stamp duty. The stamp duty can vary from price to price, depends whether it's a first home or second home, or whether it's even a property that you want to rent. Now, the situation is that she's gone and done this, and then she's blaming her advisors, who her lawyers or whoever it is, her legal team, who advised her that they could do this and get away with it. You can't just get away with it. I mean, it's one thing to show no transparency in government, but to do this in a ridiculous position, being a prime minister in position as well, working with Keir Starmer, is ridiculous. It's like, where is the common sense? Our country seems to sit on the world stage with a lot of others, but we seem to be the last stop of what we used to be, a country that used to lead people from the front. We have a government that is careless, reckless, doesn't care about its people. We have no freedom of speech in this country. And she has done the right thing to resign.
So what happens next? At this point of time, speculations are rife that there could be a cabinet reshuffle. How does this impact the workings of the government?
nothing changes. You know, the cabinet is built up of many people. You normally have 18, 20 people in a cabinet, for example, for doing many things. But my issue is that when these people form a government, they have no experience, no common sense. They're just elected MPs from the street who have stood in front of people saying, give me your job, give me your role, I promise I'll do everything for you. The problem is when you enter the Houses of Parliament, and this is a farce, the Houses of Parliament is a members' club, member of Parliament. So they detach themselves from the public. The public here are in outrage at the moment. This particular government is scatheless. It just doesn't do what people have asked them to do. They gave them a mandate. She was one of them who was given the mandate to come into government and serve the people, not serve the government. No one is serving the people. It should be member of the people or member of the public, but it's not. So Angela Rayner, the way she has adapted herself, she should have actually resigned immediately and said, I'm really sorry, I made a mistake. I'll make it sort it out now, and so there's no repercussions. Go to the Inland Revenue, sort out her problem, pay the 40,000. Everything would have been over in a rush. But she didn't do it.
Okay, all right. Sham, thank you very much for joining me on the telecast and sharing your views. Well, on that note, I slip into a short break. Thanks for watching NewsX World. On the other side,